Hello, I'm Alix.
And I'm Kelly, and welcome to the LitJoy podcast.
This episode is brought to you by LitJoy creates holiday events. All through November, December, readers can shop new gifts for readers in their life or for yourself, and can shop special sales events. The holiday season is literally our favorite time of year at LitJoy. Myself and Kelly work with our team year-round to bring to life the perfect gifts for readers.
If you're a fan of Sarah J. Maas, we have lots of items available, but new this season is the Throne of Glass key. For classic book lovers, we've released the LitJoy edition of A Christmas Carol, and there's a darling door knocker ornament that can correlate with it. And perhaps the thing that we're most excited about is our paper art edition of Alice in Wonderland. There will be special discounts happening throughout the month of November and December, so please keep checking back in.
If you're a listener tuning in when it's not the holiday season, don't worry, we've got you covered. You can use the code podcast10, that's PODCAST10 at litjoycrate.com/podcast anytime for 10% off. So podcast10 is a 10% off discount that doesn't expire. And the way to navigate to our website is litjoycrate.com/podcast, litjoycrate.com/podcast. That's where you can find everything we talk about on the podcast as far as products and sales events go. And of course, all of this info will be in the show notes. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's so nice to meet you in person.
Yes. We're already besties, but now we're like in-person besties.
Heck yeah.
And there's a difference.
Yeah.
It's like next level.
Yeah, I like it. I'm happy to be here.
I know. So we found you about 2 years ago during COVID. It's kind of, I feel like, when your Instagram took off.
Yes.
And maybe tell us a little bit about your Instagram, about kind of how that came about and kind of what you do there.
I didn't start out with a spicy bookstagram as like the end goal. I had a public Instagram and I would do like hair tutorials, beauty tutorials. And then during the lockdowns, I was so bored. And so I started reading more and then I started posting about books I read. And then it kind of just zoomed off from there. And now I have a really cool little community of readers that are like all my besties, which is really fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm like, we considered ourselves one of those.
Yes.
And sent your videos back and forth. So I'm like, Kelly, which one was your favorite? I'm like, there's been a couple that are my favorites that I've gone back to.
Yeah. I'd like to actually hear a little bit more about how you came up with your, I would say, viral series.
Yes.
And I'll let you discuss it and tell us all about that and how it began.
It is a G-Spot series where
Mm-hmm.
I go through book characters or movie characters and decide if these male characters could find the G-Spot.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
And there was a smash or pass viral thing where people would put, the filters that would pop up a Disney character and they would say smash or pass. And I never agreed with any of them. And so I was like, no, I have to do my own because I need to speak my truth about my opinions because they're different. And then they just started getting shared and it kind of just took off. And now I will meet people and they'll be like, do you have an Instagram? And I'm like, yeah. Like, the G-Spot ones. I'm like, now I'm like known as like the G-Spot girl, but I feel like there's worse things to be known as. So I'm okay with that.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And did that series come about during COVID? That's when you were or was it before even?
I think it was maybe after.
After. Okay. I swear it was during there that we were like, wait, what is
maybe
this?
It was. I genuinely don't know what day it is. So it for sure could have been before. Around that time for sure.
Yeah. I think it was towards the end of COVID. That's when we started passing your videos back and forth because we were dying because they were all based on literary characters. A lot of them.
Yes.
Not all.
Yes.
Because you've definitely broadened your, who you incorporate into those.
Yes.
I think the last one was cereal box characters.
That was one of my favorites.
That was so random too, but people kept saying like, we need the cereal characters. And I'm like, okay.
They're like, half of them are like animated, right?
No, they all are.
They're like a lot of them are.
Well,
some of them aren't even Well, anyways.
Oh, no, I was like, I get the Tony the Tiger one.
Sure.
I was like, you'd have a lot of enthusiasm.
So enthusiastic. The praise.
The praise.
Yes.
Go girl.
For his partners.
Yeah.
So sweet.
Great.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So I know the cereal one got me. I sent that over to Kelly a few times and we keep laughing about it.
It's so weird. It's such a weird thing that I do, but it's fun. So
it's not weird. It totally makes sense. I'm like, there's a reason it goes viral because I think people relate to it so much and it like destigmatizes talking about kind of just like sex and books in general and characters. And so...
Well, and with like Lord of the Rings, there was like some really intense debates going on. I'm like, I just love that people are talking about this.
Yes. That was one I sent to several friends and they definitely had feelings about it.
Oh, yes.
There's a lot of feelings around like the Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. And you just did Twilight recently. How's that one been going? Feelings? Everyone's just like,
I feel
agree.
Like it's either like, yes, I agree with everything or like, you're so wrong. And I'm like, okay, well, these aren't real people. So, it's kind of just like a fun thing, but people get very animated and...
Well, people care. People care so much about book characters.
Yes. Yes.
They feel like it's an extension of their life. They go into these stories and then they create these whole... Like you're co-creating with an author when you read a book.
Well, it becomes like this intense fandom where... A lot of the times these book characters become these people's personalities. Like they're obsessed with it. It's the same as sport fans but it's book characters and people get very sensitive with their people, which team they're on, if it's Jacob or Edward or, they get animated about it.
Oh, totally.
Which I like. It's funny.
Well, I mean, and obviously because it's become so popular and people get so invested. Like, you've struck a chord with people that they care about books.
Yes.
I mean, Kelly and I, every time we explain our company to someone, they're like, oh, that's so cute that you read. And I was like, oh, they don't get it. They don't get that.
No.
It is like sports teams where people, they are so in love with these characters.
It's a cute little hobby. Like, no, it is my soul. This is everything to me.
It's a passion.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that's why I love the community so much is because it is so passion filled with all different genres, their characters, the books they recommend. And so I think that is what you've stumbled into, right? When you started just because you were bored, as you said, with your Instagram and talking about like, can this character find the G-spot? But I'm sure you quickly found that you had this community instantly drawn to you, right? So I'd love to ask, as you kind of dipped into that, the bookish world, it seems like it's a lot of the romance, which we love.
Always.
Have you started to feel like you're drawn to almost like a certain message you want to share? Or are you finding a message that you're like feeling passionate about that just kind of came about?
I 100% only read romance books. When I try to read something else, I'm like, but why aren't they in love? Or like, why isn't there like... pining and I just don't want to read it if it's not a romance book. And when you're in the romance genre, the spicy, smutty books are a big part of it.
Yeah.
And especially living in a conservative area where there's so much like stigma and shame around it, I feel like even having a conversation with a friend about a book, it opens up that line of communication to have conversations with friends about sexual things that they probably wouldn't have before. And it seems like such a silly, trivial thing, but a lot of times this is like changing people's lives.
Yeah.
Which is so dramatic when you say it, but it's true. Like when, they've never talked about anything, or I didn't know that it was supposed to be like this, or because they've never talked about it, there's always been about it. And so even just being like, hey, did you read this book?
Oh, for sure.
Did you see that chapter? To have that like open line of communication is beneficial.
I know. I love that you said that because Kelly and I definitely both grew up in kind of conservative communities. And one thing I found actually is when I'm trying to connect, whether it's like mom's on my son's football team, or if it's like someone in line at the grocery store that I see like picking out a book or something like that, I'll always kind of be like, oh, have you read like XYZ? Or I'll be, you can tell so much about a person when you figure out what books they read.
Yes.
And then you can also kind of introduce them. And I find that I introduce them to like spice level 1 romance books.
Yes.
If they're not readers, because I feel like it's such a good place to get people kind of addicted to the feeling of reading.
Yes.
When they're like, oh, I don't read. I'm all, well, have you read like obviously like Sarah J. Maas or something where I'm like, it's got an addictive quality to it in that you feel totally immersed. And so it's like, you know, it's such a great genre to get people talking about books. And then it opens up, you know, I swear like our social media, or like our phones know we're reading. They're like, hey, you haven't been on me for a very long time. And then they start feeding you like Bookstagram and BookTok.
Yes.
And so then you like become a part of it. Is there, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I feel like it becomes this fun little club when you meet someone, like you said, at a sport game for your kids and they're reading a book and you're like, hey, have you read? And then you automatically are like we're in a club together. No matter what, like we are in this very tight community of readers and it gives you like a automatic friends. Yeah. Which is really fun.
Oh, yeah.
Really fun.
I've even just worn a shirt that's like, ask me what I'm reading, or just like, I love books, like just simple. I think I wore it to Costco like a month ago, something about reading. And I think I had 3 different people stop me just because they wanted to talk books.
Yes.
And I'm just like, I'm in the milk aisle. I'm freezing. Can we go out here and talk? Like, And it is interesting because people are so like desperate to connect about those characters in those books. And that's why I love the community. And with romance specifically, I always call it human catnip because those books are, like we talked about, so addictive because they kind of hit certain notes that follow like the same kind of tropes, but I don't care. I'm there for it because it has, you know, it's going to end well. Like every romance that's typically, right? I don't think I've read one where it doesn't end well. The characters are going to have
some
those
sort
moments,
of happily ever after.
Yeah, so you kind of just know what you're getting into, and it's going to be a feel good to some degree. And then, you can go up on the spice level depending on your preference.
Well, escapism too.
It's
to be sitting at home all day long with your kids, or you're like in this doldrum of life. To have that escapism, especially with fantasy or romance, when it's a form of escapism that is really important to people who have started and kind of rely on that to enjoy their lives.
Well, I know. And the thing that's so interesting about books is because I feel like people think that readers they're these hermits who don't talk to anyone and they just like are kind of in their little like reading cave. Yeah. But the conversations, especially now with social media and things like that, the conversations are there and the community is so passionate, as you've mentioned. And so I feel like in romance, it brings up topics where it takes away that taboo.
Yep.
And so every genre people are passionate about. Like we mentioned Lord of the Rings, people make that their personality and they're obsessed.
Yeah.
But also that romance element, I think, is such a human element and how people connect.
Yes.
Like people want to talk about their sex lives, but don't know how to talk about it. And because there's not a lot of opportunity and it's seen as so inappropriate.
Right.
But that's difficult because it's such an important part of having a healthy adult life.
Yes.
And so if you don't talk about your sex life or you don't have anyone to turn to, it can be an unhealthy part of your life too.
Yep.
And so I love that about romance novels is if you know someone else read it, you know that you have a context, a place to start to have that conversation.
Well, and even going further than that, when especially for us growing up in a more conservative area, that taboo shame kicks in and they don't feel comfortable to Google kinks.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're reading it in a book and it comes up and you're like, oh, I think I like that.
Yeah.
Or I don't think I like that. It's an easy way to learn and to explore without having personal ties into it. It's just like a magazine of like, oh, I like that. Oh, I don't like that. And so it's a really good place for people who are uncomfortable getting into conversations like that to kind of learn a little.
Well, yeah, it's just it's a way to learn about yourself.
Yes. Yep.
And that's so interesting that you brought that up because I feel like oftentimes like a big red flag is when someone doesn't want you to learn about yourself.
Yes.
And to not know yourself.
Yep.
And so I love that, those conversations are happening around books and that people can empower themselves by knowing what they do want and what they don't.
And in a safe space.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because they're not doing it. But they're just reading about other people doing it. Okay, that feels a little bit safer than Googling choking. You know what I mean? Or something that's like a little bit more like you don't feel as shameful reading it in a book as opposed to trying to learn on your own. I wasn't raised in a conservative household, and living here where other people were, it was so different because my parents had always said that sex was like powerful. It was never bad. It was never naughty. It was never anything to put shame around. It was just like a normal human thing, but it was powerful. So it was something to be respected, and to grow up having that respect for it and knowing that it's just this powerful thing, not that it had any bad context with it, that it was never going to make me a bad person. There was never any shame growing up. And I think now, me being so open about it, and I'll talk to anyone, I'll talk to the butcher about anything, but I think it was how I was raised, and I'm aware that other people weren't raised that same way, and they have those hang-ups and that underlying shame, and I hate that. And so if I can talk about Tony the Tiger getting it, I want to start those conversations and to start communication.
Yeah, it's kind of like a desensitization to like the taboo around it, because girlfriends will send it back and forth, or like you'll send it to your friends, and it kind of just desensitizes you to all of that shame that is thrown out there around it. So it's really, I mean, do you have a personal favorite in your G-Spot series? I'm sorry, I put you on the spot with that question.
I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like my favorite things have been the ones that are super controversial. That people are like, why would you say that? Or like, that is so wrong. And I'm just like, is it? Is me talking about this cartoon character? Am I hurting his feelings? Like it's not hurting anyone. And it's just like a fun thing. But people get so angry that a woman has the audacity to talk out loud about a normal human adult thing. And I'm like, yeah, I do. I'll do it all day.
Isn't that crazy? Scared. Like the day and time that we're in. Yeah. That just what you said is so powerful, because, here we are in 2023. And just as a woman speaking about sexuality, it is still very a rough world out there to be doing that, to be speaking up about that. Yeah. But it is so important. And, a lot of what you guys are talking about 100% resonates with me. We talked about the culture that we live in, the religion that, I grew up in, that, I'm not in anymore, but it made such an impact in my subconscious even. Like, it is deep. Yeah. Like, I thought I was great. I was fine. And then things are popping up from teachings that I've had my whole life as a kid. And so much of it 100% stems around how I feel about myself in a sexual way, even talking about sex. What do I like? What I don't like? Yeah. No clue, right? Like, and here I am, I'm 40, figuring this out now. Yeah. And honestly, after, I did the traditional, go through some therapy, talk through some things. My own personal therapy was this year, I started reading romance. Yeah. Exactly what you were saying. And it has been such a gift to be able to pick up a book, exactly what you were saying, and different spice levels, read the different types of genres or tropes or kinks, whatever. And in a very safe way, that's what it feels like, be able to, preview different types and exactly like, okay, this one's not resonating with me. Yeah. Maybe I never will, maybe later, but that's not my thing. Or, hey, this one is doing things to me. Hey, what is this? I never even thought about it, And especially, like you were saying, talking about these things even in a relationship can be quite combative, just by nature, because I think we naturally want to almost like, we'll get defensive, someone's taking it personally, or someone's like, wait, what do you want? Like, the judgment can set in. And it is such a topic that you have to kind of just have an open heart, go into those topics. And so I just loved that. I was like, this is all me. This is my choice. I get to read whatever and decide for myself. And I'm like, I am a 40-year-old woman. And I'm just figuring this out. And that has blown my mind that romance can be that powerful.
Yes.
In that way.
So men and women are legitimately hardwired differently. So we are not just physical beings, more so like men are. Our brains are completely tied. This is tied to this.
Absolutely.
That's just how it is. There is a book called Come As You Are.
Oh, yeah.
Have you guys read that? I don't know the author.
Yes.
I should have looked. Her whole book is about how women are just wired differently, how the emotional, mental, physical are one. Mm-hmm. So having that safe space to talk to your partner, to hop into things with a safe, easy spot is everything. Yeah. Because women need that. Yeah. We don't just wake up rearing to go. We're not
on the daily.
No. No, like we're not.
I know.
Literally, we are not built that way.
Yeah.
Well, and in Come As You Are, that book, she gives you some tools like brakes and accelerators, and like what's a brake, what's an accelerator, and some people have like really hard brakes or really soft brakes, but like difficult accelerators. And she gives you some tools that I think are just really powerful. Yeah. And one thing I love that she said in there, she did talk about romance novels specifically, or talked about kind of romance genres. And she said that as part of learning about your sexuality or being a sexual being, independent of everybody else and owning your own sexuality, she talks about how you need, like, something in a book might be like an accelerator for you, but you don't want to do it in real life.
Yeah.
Right? Like you might read a book with like two gay characters and you're like, I am firmly heterosexual. I think that's what I am. But it's like an accelerator for them. And talking about just like removing shame around that, because I think that's an interesting thing in romance novels is you don't want to do the things in the book that are working for you always, but it's removing the shame around it working for you mentally and emotionally, and then you can have this physical experience.
Think about every like morally gray character.
Oh yeah,
those
you're
are
like
everyone's favorite,
and you're kind of like probably not in real life.
Well, then if you like dabble into the dark romance too,
oh yeah,
I would never. That is like what? But in a book, I'm like, oh,
you're like, okay, like, he's all, I own you, and you're all no. In real life.
Okay. You know, like in a book, you're like, that's kind of hot. But then if my husband ever like cut someone's tongue out for looking at me, I'd be like, jail. But in a book, I'm like, hey, you know?
Absolutely.
So I get that too. Like it's a good way to explore things. And that Come As You Are book, my takeaway, there was like a scientific experiment and they had, I was a long time ago that I read this. This is the basis of it. 50 women, they gave placebo pills and said, this is female Viagra. This is going to make you mentally, emotionally, physically ready to go. They were placebo pills. And majority of the women came back and said, that just changed my life because we are so mentally, if someone tells you this magic pill is going to change your life, it's going to make you a sassy sexual diva, and you're like, okay. And then you turn into one because your brain is telling you that you are. Yeah. So
it gives you permission.
Yeah. Yes. Cool. Yeah. I loved that book. I feel like you should have to read that to get married.
I absolutely agree.
To like get your marriage license, you should have to like read that.
Let's see. We read it it was like 4 years ago.
Yeah. We did a book club for it at my house.
We did a book club.
And I decorated it. You know, have you ever seen the movie Patch Adams where like he welcomes the OBs to like the conference through like two legs coming out of a door so it looks like they're entering a vagina?
Yeah.
I did. I was like, how can I incorporate that? So I did like streamers and like a little balloon at the top and it said, welcome.
I love that.
Because I wanted to immediately, when women came to the book club, we wanted to make them feel immediately in a safe space to talk about things that just you don't feel safe talking about all the time.
When adding humor in.
Yeah. Well, you have to, because even when you're having a sexual experience, I think humor is a really powerful tool.
Yeah.
Because not everything goes according to plan. Yeah. And so there's like a lightheartedness and also kind of like a shared vulnerability that everybody has this, you know, well, most people, not everyone, but most people have this sexual exploration awkwardness. Right. And so Yeah, it's a powerful book club.
It was. Because I read it before the book club and I read it again for the book club. And it was fantastic both times because you get something new out of it every time you read it, I think. And I would agree. I'm like, I wish I'd had that before I got married.
Yes.
100%. And I'm probably the exception here in this, that I really cried in that book several times because I 100% identified, because she mentions this how many times? You are not broken. Yeah. She says that multiple times because women are almost trained in so many ways. It's so subconscious. It's built into society and everything we read and see, that it's usually the woman's fault. Sexually, whatever's happening. It's like, man's good. What's your deal? You know? And so when she mentions that throughout the book multiple times about like, you're not broken. Everything is exactly how it's supposed to be. Yeah. Different parts, you know, rearranged. Or how would it?
Yeah, it's like
everyone has the same
parts, different arrangement or something to that effect. She had like a tagline.
We'll
put it in the show notes.
We will. Great book. It really is. And it was fascinating because we did a book club in our book club that we run, and we had probably the highest attendance we've almost ever had at that book club in a very religious, you know, community. Because I think it's exactly what you're talking about. Nobody talks about it.
Yeah. And they want to.
Everyone.
Want to.
And so it was great because we just did anonymous questions. So we just read them and answer, you know, as we wanted to. And it was just incredible. I think a lot of people got so much good out of it. And, you know, I think everyone there is literally like, am I normal? Is this normal?
Oh, yeah.
Like, is everyone doing these things? Are we talking about things? And I was like, oh man, that was my first spark of like, this needs to be happening way more. Enter like romance, and BookTok. So that combination has been absolutely fascinating to watch because, so BookTok, you know, is hashtag on TikTok for people who are just very much in the book realm. There's SpicyTok, I believe. There's a bunch of different hashtags you can follow, but BookTok has so much power right now. It is reviving so many books or giving so much power to books that are coming out. And I love it because a lot of it is in the romance genre. Yeah. And romance has been around obviously forever. Like I remember my mom, I was like the covers, right, with Fabio.
Oh yeah, the grocery store, like Harlequin romance.
I remember I caught one, I think, in my mom's dresser drawer once, and I was just like, ooh, who's this man? And, you know, like,
and he's like on a horse.
They're always like
flowing.
Something's always going. Yeah. And so
there's always a beach in the background. You're like, how?
or a castle. Scotland. Yeah, castle. Yeah. And it's just so interesting to see how it's all shifted and grown because in the last 10 years, I think specifically, it has absolutely blown up and everything is starting to move into a very different positive direction.
Yeah. Yes.
And the stigma around just what, you know, people reading romance 20 years ago is very different.
Yeah.
There's still, I think, a stigma, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, just about the genre in general.
And kind of like the evolution.
Yeah.
I feel like it goes back to it being a taboo topic and having people, even Bridgerton coming out. Those Bridgerton books have been out for a really long time.
Oh, yeah.
But I know a ton of people who 50 Shades, I feel like was everyone's kind of like, not everyone. A lot of people tapped their toe in with 50 Shades. They had read Harry Potter, Hunger Games, 50 Shades. And so
it went like Hunger Games, Twilight.
Yeah.
50 Shades. And 50 Shades is Twilight fanfic. That's just like,
That's why Anastasia and Bella are so similar.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
They literally was fanfic. But that happened and people were like, I loved Bridgerton. There was like romance and then a little bit of spice. So then more people were talking about it. Bridgerton blew up. Okay, I'll start reading. Well, have you read this one? And then it kind of is just this snowball effect of, I enjoyed that. That was really fun. I learned a lot. It was in this form of escapism. And I feel like being it more mainstream happens when it just is word of mouth. Mm-hmm. Like Bridgerton started and then, well, obviously 50 Shades, but 50 Shades was naughty.
Yeah.
Like it came out and people are like, I'm not reading that.
Oh, yeah.
Clutching their pearls, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But I feel like Bridgerton was
they're like, because it takes place in like Bath in the 1800s.
It was fine.
I'm reading it for historical purposes.
100. But when people, you know, you couldn't just pull out your 50 Shades at a PTA meeting.
Exactly.
Oh, you could.
Yeah.
I would. But Bridgerton, I feel like really was a big deal in the book world. I feel like it opened up a lot of people's minds. And then BookTok started rolling with the edits. And then, oh, have you read this? And I feel like it kind of zoomed since then.
Oh, yeah.
Which I love.
It's so fascinating because, I think everyone's heard of this book, at least if you're on BookTok in general, but like the Ice Barbarians series. Yes. I was fascinated to learn that because I thought it was a new series. And then I'm like, there's like 20 plus books in this series.
It's a world.
And it's been out for like 9 or 10 years or something. But BookTok picked it up and it just went viral. Yeah. And now everyone has had some, you may not have read it, but you've heard of it. You've seen a cover.
BookTok picks up your book,
I'm like,
you're good. Well, that was like Colleen Hoover's. I mean, we've read Colleen Hoover, for like 15 years.
Yeah.
For a really long time. But she was kind of a small author even when we met her like 5 years ago at BookCon. She was not as well known. And I feel like she's one of those authors that, as an example of what you said, where, a couple of her things, It Ends With Us, I think kind of blew up. And then when it becomes a trend on these social media platforms, more people want to talk about it because it's trending. And
also people don't want to be left out.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So if they're sitting at a girls' night and they're all talking about It Ends With Us, and they're like, well, who is Atlas?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go home and read it. And so for authors, it's the best free advertising there is. If you can get like a BookTok group to talk about you, you're golden. Yeah. It's just like this epic spider web. I love it. But it's important too to have... And I feel like the negative and the positive reviews too. Sometimes there'll be a negative review about a book and I'm like, oh, now I want to read it.
Yeah, you're like, I want to see what all the hype is about.
Everybody so even if it's good, positive or negative, you don't know someone's going to be like, they're blue aliens that are freaky. And someone's like, I want to know about blue aliens that are freaky. Okay, I'll try it. So even if it's negative or positive, just having people talk about it is huge.
I mean, I got on board because I kept hearing about it and seeing it. And I was like, what are these freaky aliens? Why is this a big deal? And then you listen to it and you're like, okay.
Oh, I get it.
I get it. I mean, I don't mind the tail either. I could work with that. Like you got to it just becomes a fun thing.
Back to the taboo thing to read it as a joke.
Like
all your friends, I'm going to read this 7-foot alien with a third leg. I'm going to read about that because that's funny. I want to talk about it with my friends as a joke. Same thing where it's like, I'm not doing this to turn me on. I'm doing it like for fun.
Oh, yeah.
However, it could do both and that's okay. Yeah. But when people have that shame and stigma around it, even if it's like a weird trending book about big blue aliens, it's creating conversations.
Absolutely.
Which is cool and important. For sure.
We're all, on the aliens. Yeah.
We're all thinking about it.
I'm like, there's so many interesting genres within romance that I was like, I didn't realize this makes sense though, that you can get outside of just humans.
Well, I mean, I think kind of to go on that same note, I remember just like reading my first Nora Roberts and being like, because hers are always kind of like a mini murder mystery with romance and it's always in like Nantucket. Or like
beach house.
Or like Nicholas Sparks. So like you gotta have those like mainstream kind of stories, and that's all you really hear about. And I think with traditional publishing, they promote the books they know that are always going to sell, where the author's name is huge on the cover.
It doesn't matter what it's about. The name sells it.
Yeah. And I think it's been a huge shift in romance publishing in general. It's actually word of the people, like what people are loving. And I didn't even know there were subgenres in romance until like the last 3 years. Because I would always kind of just do the typical like, I'd read the fantasy novel that's a little spicier. Yeah. But it's been a fun adventure, like the cozy coffee shop kind of like romances. But they're both fluffy. But they're both like monsters, literally like in like a monster world.
Yep.
And they're like, what is it? Lattes and there's a couple of cute ones that are like that. But the subgenres that I didn't realize was like worked for me was romance, like hockey romance. I was like, apparently I have like feelings about hockey.
I've never watched hockey. I don't like hockey, and hockey romances are one of my favorite books.
Right? They're the best.
Okay.
They're so good.
I was like, it's fun, but yeah.
So I did a live with Monty J. She's a romance author, and she wrote a hockey series. And I mentioned, like, I don't even like hockey. And she's like, well, hockey are bad boys. And I was like, whoa, hockey are the bad boys. So if you are they're fighting on the ice. They're bad boys. So normally people who like hockey like the bad boys. And it totally like, ding,
yeah, like I get it now. Have you been to a hockey game?
No.
It's really kind of the most, okay, so like hockey.
But I read a hockey book a month.
I know. You're like,
easily.
It's like a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
No, so hockey I'm not going to go down like a whole hockey rabbit hole, but I've been to exactly 2 hockey games, and they literally are like, it's like football, but on ice with knives on their feet. And they just beat the crap out of each other.
It's almost like allowed and like
no, it's like encouraged. It is.
Crazy.
Everyone cheers for Devin. And the refs are like, okay, we got to meet our quota of like 2 dudes getting in a fight at least 4 times.
Like only 3 dudes are bleeding.
And you get to wear
out. Get a little more rough. Like what?
I know. It's so true. And you get to wear like huge sweaters and jackets to stay warm. So you're like comfortable and you're just like settling in, and you just get to watch them beat the crap out of each other. And they're all in incredible shape.
Yeah. It's just a lovely display of masculinity.
Yeah, I was just like, this is working.
Yeah, but they're manly, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like hockey players. I'm probably going to ruffle feathers with this. Okay. Soccer players. David Beckham. Okay, sure. A hockey player. He is just like textbook toxic masculinity, like rough. Like he will throw down for you. He could probably run faster, sure. But this guy is like the bad boy. So, and I didn't know I was even into that. But then you read these books and you're like learning things about yourself. Like, oh, maybe I do like a little rough man. I don't know, but you don't know until
your mind immediately equates it to like, okay, this guy could literally throw me over his shoulder, throw me onto the bed, protect me, keep me safe, but also, you know.
I think that's why hockey's so big, is because they're like the bad boys.
Like, I didn't know how big it was.
I know.
I didn't either until...
And then you start reading them, and then you're like, oh, you go to Barnes & Noble, there's literally entire shelves of just hockey romance, and I'm all, okay. And I remember making fun of it for a minute, being like, why is this a thing? You read one, and you're like, never mind.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
And they're the best.
Converted.
Yes.
I've seen the light.
Yep. They're masculine to the max. Even if you're, again, not into that in real life, that's not something... I don't need my husband to beat up everyone that looks at me. Sure. But in a book, I'm like, why aren't you beating him up? He just looked at her. Like, what are you doing? But a hockey man would.
Yeah.
Kind of goes in with everything that, like, no matter what it is, you don't know until you dabble. And I feel like that is what is so cool about books, is it gives you the easiest, most fun way to dabble.
Yes. And on those lines, I love that publishers, and to be fair, a lot of romance does not get published through traditional publishing.
Yes, a lot of it's independent.
Much of it, which is so powerful. Yeah. I'm just like, yes, this is amazing, because they're like, we're just going to do it ourselves. And they just publish them. And a lot of them are like, Kindle only, like e-reader only. Most romance only paperback. Only the really, really like big blown up ones ever even make it to hardback. So it is fascinating. But there's several publishing houses that literally would not survive without romance. That is like the genre that props them up and keeps the money coming for them all the time. Yep. And it isn't until like I said, the last 5 years that it's really taken off. And I love that for me personally, I love that they're changing the covers so that it's like you could literally have a display at Barnes & Noble and they don't feel like they need to put little cards in front of them, like the grocery store, because the covers are so scandalous, And for people like me who are a little bit more nervous to read it in public. I'm over here just like, it's just a cute little couple, in cartoon drawing right here. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
As I'm reading something very spicy.
Yeah. I always wonder like the psychology that goes behind book covers. Yeah. Because there's always those book covers that come out that notoriously everyone's like, that's the worst book cover ever. And it's not even in romance genre. There's like despised book covers that have like the audience hates them and they're like, redo them. Like they ask LitJoy to redo them because they hate the covers. And I always think it's interesting about the romance ones. And I'm like, I wonder who was in charge of those like Harlequin romance ones with like the chest, like bare-chested Scottish man.
Yeah. Like a nipple about to pop out of a bodice.
For sure. And I'm like, who came
He's
up
always
with that?
lubed and oiled up. The hardest nipples you've
like a
ever
slip
seen on
and
him.
slide.
Yeah, riding a horse. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I do feel like the covers kind of, there's a spice scale, and we talked about this a little bit. So
Yes, break it all down for us.
Okay, give us like 1 to 5 if you have them.
Okay, I have a whole list, but I do feel like with the cartoon covers especially, a lot of, they're called closed door romances, where they, it's the wedding night and then they start kissing and then the page ends. Those are called closed door romances. Those are normally a level 1 on the spice. So a lot of fluffy closed door rom-com books have a cartoon cover. So then people are like, no, this is cute. This is fluffy. I'm not reading smut at the soccer game. So then other authors were like, those are selling well. So I'm going to put a cartoon cover on my filth so people feel a little bit more comfortable reading them and a little bit more conspicuous that you don't make. You're like, no, they're not. He's not bending her over the couch right now, okay? They're holding hands at a park. But everyone else are like, oh, it's a cartoon cover. There's nothing bad going on. There is. But the covers make a big deal. Okay, the spice, I wrote it down. I had to write it down. Okay.
So this is something I also had to figure out when I first started reading romance this year, was people were putting these spice emojis right by the books. And
the chili peppers.
The chili pepper. Mm-hmm. And so I had to figure out like, okay, what's the system here? So I understand what I'm getting into, because I don't know what a 4 spice equates to versus a 2. And now I do.
Well, and it's hard also because everyone's spice scales are different.
That's true.
So I was on like a Facebook group and someone was talking about the Court of Thorns and Roses series. And someone said, are they spicy? And someone commented and said, not at all. These are like 0 out of 5 chili peppers. These are not spicy books.
I want to know what their 5 is.
That's what I said. Wow. No, I literally asked. I was like, what is a 5 out of 5 for you? Just wondering.
I was like, does it end in death? I don't
know.
Stakes are really high.
But so everyone's spice scale is different too.
Yes.
Which is hard because when you're like, I don't want it to end in death.
Right.
Sure. I'm going to stay with the 3.
Death by orgasm. You never know.
Good
way to go. Good way to go.
If you can think it, there's a book about it. I can tell you that. Okay. So I have 1 chili pepper. Yeah. Like I was just talking about the closed door romances.
Right. Fade to black.
Yes. And they talk about it. It's not Harry Potter, 0.
Right.
Sex is never talked about. That's a 0 for me. My level 1, I feel like this is a good example because a lot of people have read and watched it. Breaking Dawn, Twilight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a level 1. It's talked about, but we don't get any details. We know that Bella walks out into the ocean and we know what happens, but it's closed door.
Yes. So
that is level 1. And Sarah Adams is an author and she writes the best fluffy closed door romances, and also Portia McIntosh. Have you guys ever read her books?
No, I think I've heard of her books before.
How either of them have not been made into like cute rom-coms, I have no idea.
Oh. Well, let's make it happen. Let's just keep we'll put them in put all this in the show notes too for readers so that you folks, so you all know like what Devin's spice levels are, and also book rec. And book recs, which I think is great.
Level 2, we have There Is Sex in these books. Mm-hmm. It is not super detailed. They're not graphic by any means, but they're doing it. And we know they're doing it.
So, that like, and by doing it, we mean that like the penetration is described.
P in the B.
Yeah.
Is level 2.
Because I think that's like where there's the distinction is like, it actually describes the physical act of sex. Because I think that a lot of times sex will be in books and we know they're having sex, but they won't name the body parts. Yes. I feel like that's when you know, like it's like the body part naming.
But with my level 2, it's not like extremely detailed. Correct. It will be like half a page.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's my level 2. Recommendation or like an example is A Court of Thorns and Roses 1.
Yes.
Okay, yes.
So Sarah J. Maas, her series is everywhere. It's wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I'll talk about
specifically
that
book
10 minutes,
1.
Probably. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Book
Because I was
one.
like, everyone's like, book 2 though, but what about Court of Mist and Fury?
So I do feel like they get a little spicier, but
Yeah.
A Court of Thorns and Roses is a 2 for me.
Okay.
Got it.
You
I
know
would
what
agree
they're
with that.
doing, and he's growling in her ear, but we don't get any like overly.
Did we get velvet wrapped steel in that one?
Most likely. Yeah.
Let's just count on that. Always.
Yeah.
Sarah's descriptions.
And then Throne of Glass also towards the end. Those are level 2.
Yes.
Out of nowhere, we're like, oh, okay.
Okay.
I mean, I love me Rowan, so I don't mind.
Dorian over here.
Oh.
I'm a shadow daddy girl. Okay, so examples of 2 also, the ACOTAR, Allie Hazelwood.
Yes.
She's a level 2 for me. You know what they're doing. It's not regular through. Normally towards the end, you get a page or 2. That's a level 2. Okay. Bridgerton, also level 2.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah.
Summer 1. Boring, but 2 for the most part. Okay.
Yes,
then
that's
we
true.
have 3. Then we get into more detail. It's happening more regularly. Silver Flames, A Court of Thorns and Roses is a good example. You're getting way more detail. It's happening more often. It's not just the same thing constantly. You're getting a little bit more. A little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, oh wait, you mean A Court of Mist and Fury is a 3?
Silver Flames.
Silver
Silver
Flames.
Flames.
I was like, that's
yes.
multiple
I even
times.
think Mist and Fury is a 2.
Yeah, I would say that.
2.5 for me.
Okay.
Yeah, it kind of falls in between.
Yeah.
But there's an entire chapter that's just them having sex.
Yeah,
In
that's what's like chapter 55.
Yes, but it's not.
We know the chapter.
There's not.
We have a bookmark.
And I would say 2.5.
But
sure.
you know,
but it's just not happening regularly. It's not a
Yes.
theme throughout the book.
I think
It's
that's a
not
great
the main point.
Yeah.
That's a good point. And it was like a lot of people's intro into romance, honestly, in
Yes.
the fantasy genre.
Yeah.
That's because we did a lot with fantasy, at LitJoy. And so I think that was like a huge bridge series,
Yeah.
specifically
Yeah.
with Sarah's books, the ACOTAR series. And I remember I was trying to find reasons to stay up to listen to that book.
Yeah.
And I was like painting my toenails at like 2 a.m, listening to
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
Resend and everything. And I'm like, what is this? This is new catnip,
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Like that is probably closer to a 2 if I was reading it now.
Yeah. Because it's not happening regularly.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
You get fit like before that's happening.
Yeah.
So it's a 2 for me. I would give a 2.5 because like there's a little. It's not super vanilla. There's a little something else going, but it's a 2.
Okay.
A 2.5, sure.
Okay.
And then I have other authors. Tessa Bailey.
Yes.
Hers are 3. You're getting into a little more dirty talk. You're getting into a little more than just vanilla.
Oh yeah. And
Once
people
a-
are
once a
reading
book.
Tessa Bailey
Mhm.
for the romance.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Like the romance is driving the plot.
Yep. And then Amy Dawes, similar. Megan Quinn. Some of hers are 2 or 3, but most spicy rom-coms are in the 3 category. So when someone's like, where do I start? I normally say a level 2 or 3. I'm not going to just 5 out of 5 them and scare them off, But and especially when it's a rom-com, you're getting more like, oh no, it's fun. It's an easy read. Fantasy can even be hard for people sometimes that aren't like readers to jump into this world building. But like a nice fluffy rom-com is easy.
You're like, that they're in San Diego at a ice hockey rink. Like,
yes,
they're not on
Yes.
a different planet. So
literally
One step at a time.
with maybe even different parts.
that's true. She's like, you don't know.
Oh, we don't know. Okay, and then we have 4. So 4, we're getting into heavy detail. Like these are like 5+ pages of like filthy detail. Slay. We like that.
Slay.
And then we're getting into kinks. We're getting into a little bit of taboo. It's not vanilla. There's a little more going on.
Yep.
Whether it is even exhibitionism, where there's people watching, voyeurism, where they're watching. And it could be in a fluffy rom-com where they're doing it in a bathroom at a party. That is still technically a kink.
Yes.
Not a heavy, like, but maybe. So that 4 for me is kind of like leading in. You're getting not just plain missionary, same,
So would like
Katie
Roberts fall into that?
Yes.
Yeah, like
So-
Neon Gods.
Yeah, that book's been out for quite some time, right?
Yes. So that is an exhibitionism kink and a voyeurism kink.
Yes.
Book 1, right?
Neon Gods. Yeah.
Oh, because
the one with Hades.
I've read a few.
The one with Hades and Persephone.
Persephone, yeah.
And
Yes.
then also level 4 books that is where you can get into like the reverse harems, the multiple partners. But for me to transfer over to a 5 is where you get into it is the plot. If you take the spice out, there's not much book left.
Yeah.
So Katie Robert, that series I talked about, by Monty J, The Hollow Boys, Emily McIntyre's Never After series. These are kinky, some taboo topics, especially with Katie Robert. She has a touch of taboo. It's like a whole series of kinks.
She has very interesting genres that I've only
everything.
I haven't done anything outside of Neon Gods yet, and I think I've been a little nervous.
You should be, but in a good way.
Some of the covers, I'm gonna need a minute.
Katie she is one of the authors too that I feel like specializes in like the LGBTQ community, where there's no like gender's not an issue. Species isn't an issue. No. Like Katie will write anything and consistently it is not just male, female. And people like that. Like you were saying, like male books are one of the top selling spicy book genres. And it's not just like straight women with 5 kids at home. Red, white, royal, blue.
That's such a good like commercial
intro.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful. It's like such a darling story too.
Yes. So. But that one is also not very spicy.
Yeah.
So if you read that and you're like, oh, I want more of that, Katie's
She's
great.
The way to go.
Katie's great. So those are my 4. And then, like I said, 5 is where it's erotica. They're not really even spicy books anymore. You take away that and there's not much plot left.
Yeah.
That is the plot. The spice is the plot. The plot is the spice. So for me, I like a 3, 4. It's rare that I read a 5 and I'm like, I want to read this all day long.
Yeah.
5 authors. There is a book called The Red by, I should have wrote this down.
Teach me about 5. This is new for me.
So 5 is that whole book is.
So The Red.
Okay.
I haven't heard of that one.
Because it's nasty.
Oh, right.
It's nasty. So a lot of people that they just want to open up a book and that is all they want. There are 5 out of 5 spice levels. But for the majority of the spice book world, they're mostly at a 2, 3, 4. But she writes erotica. So there's the difference too between erotica, which is 5 out of 5. That is what you're reading. And then just spicy, smutty books.
Yes. Okay. That was, I think my question is a 5 literally just erotica? I wasn't sure.
So a good example for me of a 5 out of 5 that I still really enjoyed is a Salacious Players Club series by Sarah Kate.
Okay, yeah.
The series is about a kink club. So if you take the spice out of that, what is there? But there's also this underlying epic plot. Karina Halley wrote a Ariel Pirates of the Caribbean book. That is a 5 out of 5. She is filthy, but there is this really strong, amazing plot through the bottom. So there are books that are 5 out of 5 that aren't just pure erotica, but for the most part, they are.
Okay. That's good to know. A lot of them probably do fall in the 4 category. Yes. Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Got it.
Sometimes they'll teeter where you're just like.
I feel like if I was reading a 5.
Hot dogs at your face. Yeah.
I feel like for me, if I was reading a 5 out of 5, I would know it because I'd be so wildly uncomfortable.
Sure.
Right? Because it's got to be so out of the norm.
Yeah.
It's got to just be shocking. It's got to throw everything at you.
Shocking is a good word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Sometimes that's fun.
I was going to say, sometimes it's all right. Yeah. And sometimes when it's just the whole part, I'm just like, I can't take anymore.
Well, they're saying that too. So
it's a lot.
They're saying that too. Yeah.
There's a lot of that actually quoted in the book.
Yeah. So. Every other page it says that. So
he's like, you want to bet?
Yeah. But I feel like the spice scale, circling back to BookTok, you can find these BookTokers, Bookstagrammers that only do reverse harem series. And they all focus on that. And that's all.
So for people listening, what's a reverse harem if they don't know?
Yes. A reverse harem is one woman, multiple men. Mm-hmm. And that is a very common book thing going around. But there's a BookToker for really anything you can want. There's a reverse harem BookToker, and that's all she rates and reviews. Then there's closed door BookTokers, Bookstagrammers. And that's all they do is just talk about closed door romances. So if you can navigate what kind of chili pepper, what kind of spice scale, then you can kind of cater your algorithm to only have books pop up that you're going to like.
Yeah.
Or if you're like, I just read a bunch of level 2s, give me a 5. Then that's something you can like look into. Even
like a reverse palate cleanser.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
We're just going to dive in the deep end.
Yes. And sometimes you need that.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about any of the subgenres within romance? Like you mentioned the reverse harem. Is that considered a
is that like a kink, a trope, or like
a subgenre?
I would say it's a trope.
Okay. So in your opinion, what are some of the most common romance tropes?
Like just in general?
That you are like seeing. I know that there's got to be niches for so many, but like what are some of the most common in your opinion?
Are we talking like
the grumpy sunshine?
Grumpy sunshine, one bed trope where you know that they're going to be in forced proximity. So brother's best friend. Like there's so many where you're like, I just want this. And then when people are recommending or reviewing, they can say grumpy sunshine, brother's best friend.
Okay, so you kind of have an idea of what you're getting into.
Yes, without knowing anything about the plot, not knowing anything. So that's also a good way to navigate how to find a book that you're going to enjoy. Because there are certain tropes that I'm like, I just don't like that. I hate friends to lovers. That is just so boring to me. I'm more of an enemies to lovers. So normally if it's like grumpy sunshine, friends to lovers, I don't want to read that. But someone that is their favorite and that is all they look for. That is all they gravitate to. Mm-hmm. But tropes, I mean, enemies to lovers, I feel like is huge.
Yeah.
And then you get the friends to lovers, best friends to lovers. And if you get into more like kinky stuff or student teacher, and then the more taboo topics, ex-boyfriend's dad.
Okay, I have seen that one.
Yeah. No, there's so many.
Yeah. There's a lot of those.
So many.
I've read a couple and been like, oh, I should have read the description. I'm just in. Oh, I didn't see that coming.
But without ruining any of the plot, without any spoilers, you can read a trope and kind of know what you're getting into and to know what to avoid or like, oh no, I want to read that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think especially in the world of like sex, there is things that can be really triggering to people.
Yes.
And so what's so nice is that we've in a place of safety, I feel like romance readers in the romance genre have created like this tool for communicating.
Yes.
So we have like all these subcategories where it's really supportive, where we're like, here's what you're getting into, here's how you know, and then you can kind of make decisions for yourself.
I always say, like on my page and my book club, everything, we always say we don't yuck someone's yum.
Oh, for sure.
So no matter what, they are in, and then you get into the whole dark romance genre. So if someone, that's all they want to read. They like dark themes. Cool. That's cool. We don't yuck someone's yum. Yeah. So especially with the dark themes and dark romances, like we've been saying, it's like a good way to dabble. Because that is not something you're like, hey, honey, when you get home from work, I want you to, something like pretend to kidnap me and throw me in the basement.
Yeah.
And then we'll go out for ice cream. But when you're reading it, you're like, am I into, well, maybe. And then it can open up that form of communication.
Mm-hmm. It is fascinating to kind of pick up on what things are working for me, and I'm always like psychoanalyzing myself, and then I'm all, maybe I shouldn't. But part of me is like,
just do it.
Part of me, I'm like, why am I liking this? Yeah. And then part of me is like, I don't. I'm just gonna enjoy this. You don't want to go there, but it is so helpful because again, as I've just gotten into it, I've started to see the trope hashtags, and I'm like, okay, good to know. Like this one has like S&M in it, or this one there might be a rape scene even. And I love that they will give you all that information up front. And I've noticed the books will do that too.
Well, a lot of them, this is a new thing. This did not happen in dark romances a long time ago, but the trigger warnings.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have trigger warnings, whether it's accidental pregnancy, which someone else would be like, that's not triggering at all, or a miscarriage. Something that is not triggering to one person can be insanely triggering to the other. So those trigger warnings at the beginning of a book are really helpful too, along with the tropes and the tags, and to kind of know what you're about to read.
Absolutely.
Before you get halfway in and you're like traumatized.
Yeah. I mean, someone like I have triggers in my life, so it is very important to just allow people that space.
Yep.
And it's wonderful that the book community's really latched onto that. In general, I feel, across the board, it's really helpful. And it is nice when you can just hit that hashtag and be like, I have a whole new reading list now because I love me like a grumpy sunshine.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is,
and then you get reverse grumpy sunshine where she's grumpy and he's a little golden retriever. Cute. But when you're into that, it makes it so easy to like navigate and know what you're jumping into before you even open the book.
And if it's okay, I want to circle back to something you had just mentioned. You mentioned your book club.
Yeah.
Tell us more about that because you had mentioned it and I think this is absolutely incredible. So go ahead and tell us about it and, how it got started and all about it.
I have a book club called the Cliterature Club.
Perfect.
Nicknamed Clit Club, aka the CC. Okay. But every month we do it through an app. There's actually a book club app and you donate $1 minimum. And then each month we put all those together and donate them to an organization of the month. So within the last year, we've donated over $5,000 to random charities and organizations.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's really, really cool. And I'm not in a place financially to donate $500 every month to a random charity. But when 500 people come together and donate $1, cool. Or someone really connects with whatever organization we pick that month and they want to donate a little extra because they're like, this one really means a lot to me. So it's a cool way to give back while also connecting with people all over the world. We have people from literally all over the world, which is so cool, and making friends. We've had book clubbers that we always do a roll call at the beginning in your like name, location. And I've had book clubbers become friends and like hang out. And a couple of them are going to like a convention. Like it's a cool way to connect with like-minded readers. And not only that, you don't have to engage at all. You can just sit back. I can give you the recommendations and you can just read them. Or every day you can be like, where's everyone at on this one? Like, are we liking this? I'm kind of hating this part. And so it's like you get this constant family that you can like talk about every day. Like we have some girls that are on there every day. Like, okay, this chapter, what in the world? So I feel like it's fun too, because when you have like a book club with friends and you guys all get together like once a month, some people aren't able to do that, or they don't have a circle that they're able to do that. So having it online too has been nice to connect with people from all over, and you can do it on your own time. You can give your reviews on this day and then hightail out of the group if you want, so it's flexible, and it has been a really cool way to give back. Yeah. Which is fun.
That's incredible. Yeah. How long have you been running it?
It started last year, and it was really small. I did it through a group, like a DM group, and then it started to blow up, and there was 100 people in there, and then and I was like, we can't do this. Like, I cannot keep up with all the DMs. So I found this book club app, and it's kind of formatted like Facebook, where you can write a message and then people can comment on the message. So it keeps it easy to navigate. But it started slow, where people were just like, what are you reading? Like, I want to read it too. And there was multiple, and I'm like, well, I want to read it with you guys. So let's all pick a book and read them together. And when I'm picking the books, we do 2 published books. And then I'm a big fan fiction girl. So then I normally do 1 fan fiction in the group. So if one of the books has trigger warnings and you're like, I'm not reading that. If I do one dark, I normally do one really fluffy. Or if we have a fantasy, and then I'll do a hockey. Like, I try to make it so everyone can get in the group, and they're going to like at least 1 out of the 3.
That's amazing.
Hopefully all 3. But
I'm like, how do people find it? How do people find your book club?
Is it open? Yes, it's open to everyone. I just do it through Instagram. It's just easier for me if I have updates or anything, because my circle is on Instagram. So
we'll put your Instagram in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
But say your handle out loud. So.
At Devin Ryann, Devin Ryann. My mom thought that was cute. So there's 2 N's.
It's very cute.
Yeah, you know.
I'm Alix. So I was
okay,
like,
yeah.
I get it.
My mom wanted a boy, I guess. So Devin Ryann.
So
and
did
she's
my
like, but
parents,
with the girl.
apparently.
Yeah, and I love it. Then I named my daughters Scotty and Blake. So obviously it's just
cute.
like a cycle we're
That's
going
darling.
with. But Instagram, I just do everything through there if I have updates. And then for the donations, they just send me like the screenshot of, and I don't even care if it's the organization that I picked. If you donate food to a food bank, you can like send me a selfie with like a can and I'll get you the link. Like I'm not weird about I just want to give back. If you donated time to your kid's classroom, I'll give you the link. Like I'm not weird about that. I just want good humans in there, really.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
What are some of the foundations you've donated to? Like, what's a couple that come to mind?
We have done the Loveland Foundation. I try to do them to the month if it's Pride Month in June. I donate it to GLSEN. It is a organization that donates money to the LGBTQ community and kids in school. And we've done negative lunch balances. We've done like foster care. We did Halloween costumes to a foster care building. We just kind of do a little theme for the month. So like
love that.
Last October was the foster care Halloween costumes. This month, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we're donating the money to Breasties. I don't know if you guys have ever heard. It's like the coolest foundation ever. But yeah, I do them kind of like themed to if there's a month, you know, like a theme to the month.
That's so cool.
An awareness month.
Because I think that people who get into romance and love it, they're going to read anyways. And so it's so nice to have this community for them and that they can give back.
Yeah.
That's, I mean,
and
it's
to have
brilliant.
easy conversations too. Like, or I really want this kink or trope. And then people are like, oh, have you read this one? And so it just opens up this like easy communication. And especially with people with social anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
That is a really easy way to make like-minded friends and be able to talk about things that they would maybe be nervous to talk about in general because they're behind a screen.
Well, and also because it's international, there's also a lot of communities where people can't talk about that.
Yes.
Outside of online.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's incredible.
Yeah. And then I've had girls in there every month for the last year, and they've also made really fun connections with other people. Like, oh, I'm talking to my friend in Australia. Cool. Yeah. It's just a fun way to meet people.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's been good. It's fun.
You're doing such good work in empowering people, empowering women.
I try. Yeah.
You're doing it.
I try my hardest. I just feel like, and being open to talk about things. I'll be like, oh, you like that? Let's talk about it. And I just have I don't have shame just in general. So
I think that's a good place to be.
Yeah, sometimes it's a lot. Sometimes it's a lot for people around me, but it's okay.
No, but that's their thing.
I would rather not be censored myself.
Yeah. I'm like, I feel like if anyone has a problem with that, it's
a them problem.
They're jealous. They're jealous because I think that's how we all wish we could be, right?
Yeah.
That we could just be. It's almost like what you were when you were a little kid.
Yeah.
And you just talked about the things you loved without any kind of
growing
filters.
up the way I did too, that's how I was raised. And so hearing people be like, oh no, I had an anxiety attack on my wedding night.
Oh yeah.
What? You know, so having these like open conversations to, oh, okay, why did that happen? Or why do you feel shame about that? And having just this safe, open space.
It's very cool. And we both have girls. And I think that like we're definitely trying to raise our daughters without shame and always giving themselves permission to be themselves. Mm-hmm. And so it's very healing for the women who are in your cliterature club. Yeah. And it's
such a funny name. People are like the
clit club.
Cliterature club. Like the clit club.
ASMR.
Yeah.
Click.
But it's not, but it's a way to also like learn about how do we talk to our daughters about that? How do we
For sure. Empower them to just like to read what they want or to say the things that they're thinking, to remove these barriers that seem to just go up left and right as they're growing up.
Well, then you're married and you want to have that open form of communication with your spouse, but sometimes that's hard and scary. So if you're like, hey, I read this book and he XYZ'd. how do you feel about that? You know, and they'll be like, I mean, we can try. I don't want to know personally. I read it in a book. What do you think? You know, to have that, like, to blame everything on the book, to have that, like, scapegoat is also nice if it's scary to talk about.
Right. And like the stakes, the book doesn't have any stakes.
Totally.
Like, so it can be this kind of like conduit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can blame it on the book.
For sure. Always blame it on the book.
Always. And it doesn't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't care. It doesn't
Books
care.
are just your best friend.
Yeah.
They don't care.
And they're changing lives. I get messages once a week from someone saying, like, this one literally, like, changed me as a person. Like, this opened up, and now me and my husband, blah, blah, blah. Like, I get messages at least once a week saying, like, spicy books changed our lives.
Oh, wow.
I know that sounds crazy, but
it doesn't.
Especially living in a conservative place.
Yeah.
They're like, I didn't know that I had or I needed this.
Yeah.
Now I do. And now I'm doing things
I'm sure I would fall in that category.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it all is makes a lot of sense to me as to why and my story, but we don't need to get into that. It's just, I can absolutely see how one book that speaks something, opens it up, sparks it for you, does something for you and your spouse in the bedroom or whoever you're with, your significant other. That can absolutely be life-changing. Yeah. You know, especially if it's been something that has been an issue for years and years, and all of a sudden this one thing just clicks, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, this worked.
Yeah.
You know, like, this is so great.
That ties back into your mental, emotional state, having everything to do with the physical side. Well, it's important.
Devin, I feel like we have so many things. I have so many more topics I want to talk to you about.
You have so many.
So I was like, we'll probably have you back on if you would be into that because I have so many things I want to keep talking about. But probably,
I know I want to dive more into genre.
I know,
like, get into it. So
this is like a great overview about the romance genre in general. I loved your spice meter.
Yes.
Being able to just talk about shame around it. Yeah. We've had some really great topics come up, and I absolutely would love to have you on and talk more in depth about certain ones.
Yeah. Well, we're all besties. So
let's do it
in real life too.
Yeah. Yes.
I know. I feel like if one of you listeners out there, just even one, feels like more empowered to pick up a book and
or
to learn more
even
about
a little bit more comfortable.
Then it's worth having another conversation.
Agreed.
For sure.
Agreed. We're changing lives with these smut pages.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's true.
All right. Well,
I'm like, thank you, listeners.
Yeah.
Thank you, readers.
Thank you, Devin.
Thank you, Devin.
Thank you, guys. This was so fun.
You're a delight. All right, reader. Thank you for listening to the LitJoy podcast. Make sure to rate and review us.
And like a good book, don't forget to recommend us to your friends.